Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And I think pretty much everybody's on the Switch Pro watch today. We're waiting for Nintendo to drop that news, and unfortunately, as of this recording, they have yet to do that. But we do have some other things to talk about as well. We got a ton of new information about E3 and what we should expect during the week of E3. This includes specific details about different publishers and their schedules for that week, and, cannot wait for all that. Then we also got some updates for some different PlayStation studios, and some exciting things are happening there. And actually, to start off today's video, let's talk about an upcoming PlayStation exclusive, Horizon Forbidden West. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Horizon Forbidden West since last week as they showed that gameplay reveal, and, I thought it personally looked phenomenal, but there has been some concern among the community with the frame rate. And that's because that demo was running at 30 frames per second. Now, right away, I just kind of figured they're probably showing the graphics mode for the PlayStation 5. They want that wow factor, more or less. Developers typically want to impress their audience with these amazing visuals, and that's probably why we saw 30 frames per second with Horizon Forbidden West. Now, if you haven't already kind of noticed the trend already, typically with these big AAA games, they like to focus on different game modes. Sometimes you'll have something like performance mode that focuses on frame rate, then you have graphics mode, which will focus on resolution, and then sometimes you'll have something like ray tracing, which of course will focus on ray tracing. So right away, I kind of figured that was the case with Horizon Forbidden West, and that has been confirmed after all. Yes, they will have a graphics mode that focuses on resolution and ray tracing and all that stuff, but yes, they also have a performance mode with 60 frames per second. So yeah, if you do prefer frame rate over resolution, you will have that option in Horizon Forbidden West. I know I prefer frame rate myself, so I'm absolutely going to play Forbidden West with that frame rate option. Just kind of get used to this though, going into this generation. This is something that we are seeing with a lot of these AAA games. You're going to typically have two different game modes, so don't get too worried about a game being shown at 30 frames per second at these events. Again, typically these developers do want to, they want that wow factor with the visuals, and that's what we are seeing here with that Forbidden West demo. Now, unfortunately, we do have to talk about yet another delay. I know this is something we talk about a lot on the channel as, there's a lot of these COVID-related problems that are persisting with game development. And this time, one of the more highly anticipated fighting games was affected, being King of Fighters 15. Yes, unfortunately, King of Fighters 15 will no longer release in 2021, but instead, it will release in Q1 of 2022. Now, that's not too long of a delay, but I know fans of this series are definitely going to be disappointed, and I can understand that. But just keep in mind, it's better to have a complete delayed game rather than a rushed, buggy mess. I mean, we saw that last year with Cyberpunk 2077. I always talk about that because, I think gamers are starting to understand this is why games are delayed. So don't be too disappointed about this. But at the same time, if you are a fighting game fan, this did kind of affect the overall outlook of what fighting games will be like this year. You still have Guilty Gear Strive that's coming out, and then Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown just released. So there are those games, but I know a lot of people were looking forward to King of Fighters 15. Unfortunately, we'll just have to wait a bit longer. Let's talk about E3 though, because they did drop a lot of news today. And really, E3 is just right around the corner, so we're just kind of waiting around for that official schedule and what we should expect throughout that week. Well, we finally did get the schedule, so let's just go ahead and take a look at what is planned. So on June 12th, Ubisoft will be kicking off E3 with Ubisoft Forward, and then you have Gearbox and then GamesBeat. June 13th, you have the big Xbox Bethesda event. I know several of you all are really excited about that one, but there's also some other good events that's going to be taking place that day as well, including Square Enix, PC Gaming Show, the Future Games Show, Warner Brothers, Back 4 Blood, and 24 Entertainment. Now, Square Enix, we'll talk a little bit more about that one here in a second, and then PC Gaming Show is always kind of a bit of a wild card. Sometimes they have some really interesting announcements there, so it's definitely worth tuning into. Then on June 14th, you have Take-Two, Mythical Games, Freedom Games, Razer, Capcom, which is something that I'm certainly excited about, Verizon, Intellivision, and Vin. And then on the last day of E3 being June 15th, you have Nintendo. That's going to be another very exciting event. We talked about that yesterday. Then Bandai Namco, Eureka Games, and GameSpot. So right there is the full schedule for E3, and interestingly enough, they also have some kind of fan access where you can register to have access to their E3 online portal and app. This portal and app will open up on Saturday, June 12th, and you'll have access to a number of different benefits, including select exhibitor booths, lounges, forums, leaderboards, and profile creation. The online E3 2021 portal and app will also feature the E3 live broadcast with interactive overlays that includes viewer polls, features, tweets, and more. So this isn't anything major, but if you do want just a little bit of something extra with this year's E3, you can absolutely go out and register for that E3 online portal and app. But yeah, there's a lot to be excited for during that E3 week. I kind of like how everything seems to be relatively well spread out here. Not everything is just taking place in one day. You know, you have that big Xbox event, and then you have Square Enix on one day, and then, another day you might have like something like Nintendo and Bandai Namco. So, they're spread out a little bit. You have a couple major events every day, and I personally like that. Now, with that said, we did get some more details on two of the upcoming events, being Square Enix Presents and Ubisoft Forward. Now, Ubisoft Forward will be that first big event to kick off E3, and they did give us some specific games to look forward to here. This will include Rainbow Six Quarantine. We first heard about this game a few years ago, and there's been a lot of people looking forward to this as Rainbow Six Siege has really taken off, and it'd be nice to see what exactly this game will be. And then you have Riders Republic, Far Cry 6, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and they also said there's going to be some surprises that you won't want to miss. Now, as for these surprises that you won't want to miss, very intrigued by that little line there. Will there be some surprise games here, Now, if I were to put together some kind of wish list here, there's some Ubisoft franchises that I would like to see return. I mean, you have Rayman and Splinter Cell. Both of these games just absolutely need to return. Now, there has been some rumors that a Mario plus Rabbids sequel is in development, though that's just a rumor for the time being. Nonetheless, though, I would like to see, games like that be at this Ubisoft Forward, but, that's just a wish list, and, the chances of that actually happening, knowing Ubisoft, probably not. However, I will say, Ubisoft, are we ever going to see Beyond Good and Evil 2 again? I mean, what happened to that game? Regardless, there is a lot to look forward to at this Ubisoft Forward, so definitely look forward to that. Now, as for Square Enix Presents, they also detailed some games that you should look forward to with that event, and there are some good games here, so let's check that out. Square Enix Presents takes place on June 13th after that Xbox Bethesda event, and there's quite a few different games to look forward to here. You have a world premiere from Eidos Montreal, Babylon's Fall, Life is Strange True Colors, and Marvel's Avengers. This event will approximately be 40 minutes long, and I actually am excited for this event. I've been looking forward to some more details about Babylon's Fall for such a long time. This is the game developed by Platinum Games that was announced back in 2018 as a PlayStation 4 console exclusive, and we haven't really seen much on this game since that initial reveal. Well, I'm really hoping we get an official release date for Babylon's Fall at this event. Now, we did talk about Babylon's Fall just yesterday because this game did pop up on Steam database with a closed beta. So what I imagine will happen at this event, at the very least, is that we will get some kind of closed beta for Babylon's Fall. Now, as for this Eidos Montreal world premiere, that's the one that's going to really have fans interested because, this is going to be some completely new game from a very talented studio. This is the studio that works on Deus Ex, but this is not another Deus Ex game. But instead, based off of what Jason Schreier is saying, which, he is very reputable both with his leaks and as a journalist, he is saying this new title is a new Guardians of Galaxy game, which is definitely interesting. Now, we've been seeing Disney kind of license out a lot of their IP to different video game companies in recent years, and they did, in fact, license the Avengers to a Square Enix studio, being Crystal Dynamics. And now we're also seeing them license another IP out to another Square Enix studio, being Eidos Montreal, and that would be Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this is a popular IP, so, this does have some potential. We'll have to wait and see how all this turns out, but this is definitely something to be excited for with Square Enix Presents. And, like I said earlier, there's just a lot to look forward to during that E3 week. But let me know in the comments below, are you excited to see a new Guardians of the Galaxy game? Let me know in the comments below. Next up, we got some updates for some different PlayStation first-party studios. I know everybody's curious about what are these PlayStation first-party studios up to, and we did get some new hints for at least a few of these studios. You have Pixelopus, Team Asobi, and Sony Bend. Now, Pixelopus actually sent out a job listing, which kind of hints to what their next title will be, but they are working on a game using Unreal Engine 5, and they're actually collaborating with Sony Animations. Now, that's actually really interesting, and this has led to the speculation that maybe they are adapting a Sony-related movie. They do have the Spider-Verse as well as the Mitchells vs. the Machines. Now, there was a rumor not long ago saying that, the Mitchells vs. Machines was in development as a video game, so, maybe that was true after all. But regardless, Pixelopus working with Sony Pictures Animation certainly has some potential. This is a talented studio, and, if they do adapt a movie-related Sony IP, I'd like to see what that would be like. So, very interested to see what that project will ultimately end up being. Now, as for Team Asobi, this is a studio that I'm actually really excited about, and I'll kind of explain why. So earlier this year, there was a lot of conversation surrounding Sony Japan. PlayStation is kind of moving away from Japanese development. They don't want to work on games that specifically focuses on Japanese-oriented games, and because of that, a lot of their developers within Sony Japan was leaving. They were forming their own studios, and ultimately Sony Japan ended up being absorbed into Team Asobi. Interestingly enough, Team Asobi started out as a team within Sony Japan, but now they are being introduced as their own studio, and they're actually expanding, which I find very exciting. Now, this is actually kind of a bittersweet moment because, again, Sony Japan is really no more, and that's very unfortunate. But let me just say, Team Asobi has some serious potential. First off, I don't think it's just that they have potential. I think that they're already kind of there. If you ask me, I personally think that both Astrobot Rescue's mission for PlayStation VR as well as Astro's Playroom are among the best 3D platformers that I've ever played. I really do believe that. I think these are phenomenal 3D platformers. They feel excellent. They're extremely creative. They have a lot of charm. They just do everything right as a 3D platformer. So to see them kind of get upgraded into their own studio and seeing them get the chance to expand and work on their own game, they could really do something special this generation. Give this team a real budget because, I'm telling you, they can do something really special. But yeah, they were in fact introduced as their own studio now, and they're getting the chance to expand, so very exciting stuff with all that. Now, as for Sony Bend, this is another studio that we've talked a lot about throughout the last couple months, and that's because that big report that we heard about just a couple months ago about how, Days Gone 2 was canceled and PlayStation was kind of stomping on some of the more creative studios and focusing on surefire blockbuster hits. Yeah, PlayStation took a lot of criticism for that article, but it does look like that was true about Days Gone 2 being canceled. And if you remember right, Jason Schreier did say that Sony Bend here recently was approved to work on their own brand new IP. Apparently before that they were working on something Uncharted related, but they weren't exactly happy with that, and then, later on they got approved for their own new IP. Well, that seemingly has been confirmed in their most recent PlayStation blog post, where Herman Hulst had this to say: Bend Studio is working on a very exciting new IP that they're very, very passionate about. They're building on the deep open world systems that they developed with Days Gone, so I'm really happy for Bend Studio. So there you have it. Ben Studio is indeed working on a brand new IP, and I know that is a little disappointing for fans who wanted Days Gone 2. I know that there was definitely some loyal fans to that game, but this is still really exciting, and I mean, in my personal opinion, I'm actually more excited for this new IP than what I would have been for Days Gone 2. That's just my personal opinion, but there does seem to be some similarities with this game, whatever this game will be, and Days Gone. Apparently, they are building on the deep open-world systems that they developed with Days Gone, so it will share that in common. But yeah, this is a very exciting studio, and it'll be exciting to see what they do next. You know, they have a rich history of good games. You know, they have the Siphon Filter franchise, and then I really enjoyed Uncharted Golden Abyss for the PlayStation Vita. I think that's a very underappreciated game. I mean, if you like Uncharted, you absolutely need to do yourself a favor and check out Uncharted Golden Abyss. But yeah, overall, I'm very excited to see what they do next, and really the same can be said with Pixelopus and Team Asobi. You know, it just seems like there's a lot of exciting games in development over at PlayStation Studios. And onto the poll of the day. With all of the recent controversy surrounding cross-generation games, I just had to ask you all, do you think cross-generation games hurts the potential of next-generation consoles? And 58% of you said no, you do not think it hurts these next-generation consoles, and I completely agree with you all here. Yes, God of War Ragnarok and Gran Turismo 7 were both announced as PlayStation 4 titles just yesterday, but I don't inherently believe that will hurt the PlayStation 5. And I've been saying this for, close to a year now. You know, last year, Xbox announced that they were going to support the Xbox One for at least a year. And yeah, they took a lot of criticism for that. I was never one of the people that criticized them for doing cross-generation titles, and I'm certainly not going to criticize PlayStation now for doing the exact same thing. Now, I will criticize PlayStation for lying about it, because they should have just been straightforward about this from the very beginning. But really, scaling games up and down is not really a new thing. I mean, you know, PC gaming has been doing this for years, and now we're just seeing being introduced into console gaming. So, and that's why I don't think this is a major problem. You know, you're going to see a big upgrade on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series, you know, for the simple fact that they just have much better processors. It's not just their video cards, but their processing power is dramatically better than the Xbox One and the PS4, which allows for things like 60 frames per second, which is a huge jump over last generation consoles. That is the biggest jump in my opinion, alongside solid-state drives, which, you know, will majorly decrease load times. Other than that, you know, games are already easily scaled up and down. The PS5 and the Xbox Series, they're going to have better textures, they're going to have better lighting, they're going to look better, and they're going to feel better. So I don't see this as a major problem. Now, with that said, if you develop with one single console in mind, yeah, you can probably get a little extra out of that. We're seeing that with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. That was developed with the solid-state drive in mind, and it makes sense to be a PS5 exclusive for that reason. At the end of the day, though, I don't think this is going to have a major effect on the PS5 or the Xbox Series. And, you know, it's also going to help transition to next generation a little bit better. You know, these consoles are still hard to get, and a lot of people are still stuck on the Xbox One and PS4 because, you know, they just can't find these things in stock anywhere. It's hard getting the Xbox Series and PS5. You know, it just helps out with that transition. And I just think that cross-generation games is smart from a business perspective, and it makes sense for fans right now. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.